I'm Father Columba Stewart, monk of St. John's Abbey, and I'm the executive director of the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library. Fairly early in the actual creation process of the St. John's Bible, Brother Dietrich, who was president of the university at that time, asked if HMML could become more closely involved with the Bible because, in fact, it's a modern manuscript and the work of HMML is working with ancient manuscripts. So there was something of a logical connection. So for administrative purposes and also for educational and exhibition purposes, we became very closely involved. So I was asked to join the CIT because of my monastic interests, and also I'd done some writing about the history of monastic interpretation of the Bible and use of the Bible. We were very lucky to have very good organization of the work of the committee through the support staff and through the very hard work of Father Michael particularly in helping develop briefs and manage the kind of theological project side of things. And then, of course, through the wonders of email, we were getting sketches back and forth from Wales. So I would try to read the documents that were prepared, but of course, this is not a project primarily about documents. It's a project about creative process. And the creative process happens when you actually do it. So in terms of the CIT, it was the conversation in the committee rather than the homework that we did, as helpful as that was as a kind of thought starter for each of us. Ideas always spark when you talk about them with other people. So we can have individual sparks, but more sparks fly, and there were indeed sparks that flew in those conversations. And I think particularly as we tried to understand better how Donald worked and what it meant for a committee to be working with an artist. I learned a lot about not only working with artists, I learned a lot about negotiation. I learned a lot about project management. I learned a lot about letting go and just trusting that if it's the right thing, it's going to happen in God's way. I think initially we probably wanted to program the illumination a little more than was appropriate because I think we were probably still thinking more in terms of illustration as opposed to something which is trying to tell another part of the story or to make you think about the story in a fresh way. And that, of course, is what was achieved in the illuminations of the St. John's Bible, where one sees this juxtaposition of incredibly modern, timely imagery with the timeless words of Scripture itself. So I'm very aware of how these words have been heard and used in monastic contexts. But I was also aware that we weren't trying to create a great monastic Bible. We wanted something that spoke of the context of St. John's and also of our sister monastery of St. Benedict's. But we were trying to develop something which could really be a Bible for the world, and ideally be a Bible that could interest people who were not perhaps conventionally religious in what these ancient words could actually say now. It becomes a kind of gateway to understanding better the significance of handwritten and even early printed books and the transmission of culture and the effort to help human beings understand each other a little bit better. When people approach the original folios of the St. John's Bible for the first time, the first thing they say is, "You mean somebody actually wrote this by hand?" Because of course these days we don't write as much as we used to, and most of us who have recollections of writing a lot of things have memories of having to write out sentences in grade school maybe when we talked too much and we had to write something out 50 times or 100 times. I had to do it 500 times already in third grade. So this is the thing that sort of stuns them when they first encounter it. And it just prompts a flurry of reflection. I'm sure there are lots of stories all of us could tell. We probably should be getting together at some point and writing them down and burying them in a time capsule or putting them under some 50-year rule, because rarely does one have intimate access to the details of a great artistic endeavor. I would say that the St. John's Bible has only begun to fulfill some of the promise that I think Brother Dietrich saw early on. And with each little step, we're seeing more and more of that. I don't think ours is just going to be in a glass box. I think it's always going to be out and about in some way. It's always going to be a living thing. People are making it their own. So we may have the physical manuscript and we may manage access to it, but we don't control the power of it. And that's going to be for other people to sort out.